Well, for more on this conversation, we're joined by Africa analyst, Advocate Tapiwa Chadya. Advocate, appreciate your time. Can you provide an overview of the proposed tax increases in Kenya and the intended purpose in the country's foreign debt?
No, thank you very much for having me. You know, the story of Kenya is one which has been tricky because we know that we have seen quite a number of events which has been happening in Kenya. If we go back into history, because history does not have blank pages, we would know that in 2002, when there was a takeover, when there was a change of governance after about 40 years from Daniel Arap Moi coming into 2005, when the government lost the referendum, and then the bloody 2007 elections, where more than 1,000 people died in Kenya. The issues that people were speaking about were just the issues of bread and butter, were the issues of resuscitating the economy of Kenya, which has been on its knees for a very long period of time. So those issues have not been addressed to date. And as a result, that's why we are seeing a lot of despondency within the people of Kenya. And also taking into cognizance that in the past election, which was hotly contested, the numbers in terms of the winner and the loser, the numbers will be very close. So as a result, you are most likely, as a president in Kenya, going to have a serious opposition because the numbers are almost 50-50. So this is what we have seen happening in Kenya, in that the system that the current president has inherited had a lot of issues that were not properly addressed. There are serious issues that the former president took the country off its rails. It did not do much in terms of economic emancipation. It did not do much in terms of creating job opportunities. It did not do much in terms of creating equal opportunities for the poor people in Kenya. So as a result, the new president now has a lot of issues that he has to carry on his shoulders. And currently, it is an issue where we plant trees now, but if you plant trees today and expect to reap the rewards and expect to get the fruits immediately, it doesn't work like that in terms of economics. So I believe currently the people of Kenya have to suffer a bit in courts for the future generations to come. Those are the people who are going to benefit probably 5-10 years from now. Those generations will reap the rewards of the sacrifices that the current president is talking and instilling in the country of Kenya.
So, Tapiwa, you're convinced that William Ruto is doing the right thing. Now, this comes on the back of riots led by Raila Odinga, opposition leader, a few weeks ago. And this is the second such demonstration where the masses are taken to the streets in almost a 2-month period. It would almost suggest that he is on his own in thinking that this is the best remedy or this is the best medicine for the people of Kenya.
So this is the best remedy for the people of Kenya. Mind you, the numbers in terms of those who voted for him and those who did not for him, the numbers are very close. And we saw the opposition party, being the opposition party, being the left wing, they had vowed to be in the streets week in, week out, so that the story of Kenya will turn a different tide. But unfortunately, there are sacrifices that has to be made. If we look at even any economic projection of any other country in Africa, everyone is struggling primarily because of the war which is happening between Ukraine and Russia. So we are still recovering as a continent, as a country. We are still recovering from COVID-19 pandemic, where there was a serious lockdowns, where the trade between countries and intertrade within Africa and international trade was hampered. So at this particular point in time, it is a matter of survival. It is survival of the fittest. It is a time where the belts are being tightened. Kenya is one of the examples. Belts are being tightened so that at least the country can keep its head above the water. We have seen the same trend happening in the country of Zambia, where the countries, Kenya and Zambia, are heavily indebted. And as a result, they are not able to service their debts. And as a result, the taxpayers are the ones who feel the pinch in terms of the tax increases and tax hikes.
Well, you talk about tax hikes. Now, the finance bill provides a provision to increase turnover tax for small businesses, right? And small businesses are represented by the masses, so they're heavily impacted by this. Is this the only way out? What we generally find is that most taxes impact the small businesses and not really the large corporates that are making billions of dollars of profit.
So with that, one of the good policies which was done in Tanzania was to look at the multinational companies. The multinational companies have got a preponderance of taking a lot of money and not plowing back the profits, taking the taxes and not paying a lot of taxes, So the same might need to happen in Kenya. But if we look at it overall, the policies and the way, the tone, the manner that the president of Kenya has been talking about in terms of de-dollarization, he has been at the forefront of saying that we need to transform ourselves as Africans. We need to have that united Africa. We need to trade amongst ourselves as Africans using our own local currencies and have the Africa Free Trade Agreement being put in gear number 3, gear number 4. So with that type of a person who is very vocal against the United States of America, it means that he is a good idea. He's going towards the right direction for the people of Kenya. But unfortunately, the taxpayers in each and every economy, the taxpayers are the ones who bear the brunt of some of these changes. But I believe, rightly so, that the people of Kenya, they might be struggling now, but it is for the better good of the country together with the rest of the continent.
So let's go back a few months to those riots or mass protests that we talked about, and the fact that President William Ruto was then forced to sit around a table with Raila Odinga in order to contain the level of violence. Do you see a similar situation where the president is going to have to get around the table and speak to civil society, speak to the other political parties in order to come up with an agreed position, firstly? And secondly, was enough done prior to announcing this proposed tax without engaging opposition parties, civil society, and generally members of the public?
So if we go back before the past elections in Kenya, Kenya had something which was called BBI, which was Building Bridges Initiative. Through that Building Bridges Initiative, the government of the day at that particular point in time, they went extensively and consulted the youths, the civic organization and all other stakeholders in terms of transforming its electoral system. And Kenya has got a history in terms of going to consult the people, and the decision which was taken by the president, obviously in taking into cognizance the numbers based on the last election, where it was a very close race. It means that you're probably going to have about 50.1% on your side and the rest on the other side. And by virtue of just having an opposition in your country which is very strong and having an opposition party who has got a strong leader who is a seasoned veteran opposition leader, he has the numbers to go into the streets and demonstrate. So going to the table and have this discussion and having stakeholder discussions, they won't do any harm. And we saw during the demonstrations which happened, the riots which happened in Kenya, that the president came out in the open and said, look, if the leader of the opposition party is coming after me, let him come on the table. Let us come and negotiate. Let us come and discuss the issues of Kenya as compared to putting the lives of people at risk because the police had banned those demonstrations. So the president was saying there is a need to have dialogue in Kenya. And Kenya, at all material times, has been one of those countries where there's always dialogue between the president and the losing party. And we have seen as well the involvement in Kenya in various issues that has to do with conflict resolution in Africa, primarily in the DRC, where the government of the day sent its soldiers to go and try and have peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and also send some of their army to Sudan as well to try and make sure that there is peace. Obviously, some circles in the opposition have said that money that the army has taken, that budget that the army has taken, could have been plowed back into Kenya to go and uplift the lives of the poor people in Kenya.
Tapiwa, I really have about a minute to go before we wrap this up. Now, that debt, the debt that Kenya owes is somewhere in the region of 40 billion United States dollars. Is this the best way of paying off that debt? What have other countries done? And how long is it going to take to pay off 40 billion?
When you have a debt from Wall Street, from your IMF, World Bank, and those private lenders, you are stuck with those for life, because we know back in the days, through the economic structural adjustment programs we have, that those structural adjustment programs, they've never worked. And even the IMF and the World Bank, they've come out in the open and said these have never worked. They've never been a solution. We have seen that many of the African countries, and together the developing countries, which have gone to get those loans, that they struggle to repay back those debts. Zambia being one of them. Even though Zambia is one of the world's producers of copper, they have not been able to service their debts. And we've seen the problems that they've been coaching. The very same thing with Kenya, that they've been struggling to go and service their debts. But unfortunately, one of the resolutions and one of the solutions in terms of driving the country back to lift the country up in terms of the economy, in terms of the GDP, is obviously to build industries, to reignite the industries. That's one of the issues which is there. Creating any other forms of employment is also another one. But most importantly is to try and work with whatever Kenya has, to tighten their seatbelts, not to go out and borrow monies from all these underlenders, because at the end of the day, the taxes and the interest rates that they will have to pay back would be so high. So trying to work with what they have and adjusting on their budget and spending less will try and at least put Kenya in the right, and put Kenya the best foot forward for them.
Advocate Tapiwa Chadya, appreciate your time on Africa Today. And that was the analyst and advocate Tapiwa Chadya. We thank you for your time.